The wind at the Forrester family cemetery carried the scent of rain and roses, soft and mournful, as Steffi and Finn stepped onto the gravel path. The morning light was dim, the sky bruised with gray clouds, and the air felt heavier than usual, as if the earth itself mourned what it had once embraced. They walked hand in hand, though neither truly felt the warmth of the other's touch. Luna's death had left a void between them, one that no conversation, no shared grief, had been able to bridge. Every time they visited her grave, the silence grew louder, the questions more unbearable. Today, however, that silence was about to be shattered. The headstone stood ahead, simple and white, the engraved letters catching the faint gleam of light filtering through the clouds. Luna Nozawa Forrester, beloved and forever remembered. But something was wrong. The earth before it wasn't the still mound of settled soil they expected. It was disturbed, freshly dug, uneven. The flowers Steffi had placed there only days ago were scattered, trampled, their petals crushed into the mud. Her breath hitched as Finn crouched down, his hand hovering above the disturbed ground. "Steffi," he murmured, his voice unsteady. This grave is empty." The world tilted around her. For a long moment, she couldn't move, couldn't even process the words. The grave, the final proof of Luna's death, had become the birthplace of a new horror. She stumbled forward, the rain beginning to fall in light, cold droplets, blurring her vision. Something caught her eye, a slip of paper tucked beneath the headstone, damp but legible. Finn unfolded it carefully, and together they read the message scrawled in sharp, urgent letters. "Luna is alive, and she is the key to unlocking the Forrester secret." Steffi's heart froze. The note trembled in Finn's shaking hands as he read it again, his mind spinning with impossible implications. Luna alive? He remembered her lifeless body, the coroner's confirmation, the funeral. He remembered holding Steffi as she wept over the loss of a young woman who had brought light into their family, the daughter of Poppy Nozawa, the woman whose presence had once caused chaos in their world. Now that grief was twisting into something darker, confusion, fear, and the growing dread that they had all been deceived. By the time they reached the cliff house that evening, the storm outside had turned violent. The waves crashed below the cliffs with a savage rhythm, wind howling through the open windows as if echoing the turmoil within them. Steffi stood by the fireplace, her arms crossed tightly, her mind looping endlessly through the note's words. Finn paced near the door, his doctor's rationality warring with the emotional shock clawing at his chest. "Someone's playing a cruel game," he said, though his voice betrayed his uncertainty. "No one survives an explosion like that." Before Steffi could answer, the lights flickered. The door creaked open, and there she was, Luna. For a moment, neither Steffi nor Finn breathed. Luna stood soaked from the rain, her hair clinging to her face, her eyes hollow yet fiercely alive. She looked nothing like the delicate girl they had buried. Her presence was both ghostly and defiant, a living contradiction. Steffi's hands flew to her mouth, a gasp tearing through the silence. Finn's heart pounded as disbelief gave way to awe. "You're alive," he whispered, as if afraid the words themselves might break the fragile miracle standing before him. Luna nodded slowly, her gaze darting between them, her voice trembling but resolute. "I had to let you believe I was dead," she said. "It was the only way to escape Dylan and the people he works for. There's a conspiracy that runs deeper than you can imagine, and I was caught in the middle of it." Steffi stepped closer, torn between anger and relief. "You faked your death? You let us suffer, let us bury you?" The storm outside raged louder, as if mirroring the tempest in her heart. Luna's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't flinch. "I didn't have a choice," she said. "They were watching me, tracking everything. Dylan wasn't who he said he was. He was working for a shadow network connected to Forrester Creations, people who wanted to use me to expose something buried for decades." Finn frowned, his mind racing. Expose what? Luna reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded document, trembling as she placed it on the table. "The truth about who I am," she whispered. When Finn unfolded the paper, he saw DNA results, 2 names printed in bold letters. His own and another, Thorn Forrester. His pulse stuttered. The results were clear. Luna shared no genetic link with him. She wasn't his daughter. Instead, the test revealed something far more shocking. She was the biological daughter of Thorn Forrester and a woman named Camille Laurent, a name that seemed to claw its way out of the family's forgotten history. Steffi staggered back, her mind reeling. Thorn? Her uncle? The revelation shattered everything she thought she knew. Luna, the girl she had pitied, the one whose presence had nearly destroyed her marriage, was actually a Forrester by blood. Finn sank into a chair, his eyes wide, the room spinning around him. Every word Luna spoke after that landed like a hammer on the fragile glass of their reality. I found the truth after Dylan tried to kill me, Luna continued. He was working with people who wanted to discredit the Forrester name, to expose secrets buried within the company's foundation. I was the key. They needed me because of my bloodline. They thought if they controlled me, they could control everything Thorn once hid. Steffi's voice was cold and brittle. And you let us think you were dead. Luna nodded, guilt washing over her. I had to disappear. They wanted me gone, and the only way to survive was to give them what they wanted, to make them believe they'd succeeded. I've been hiding ever since, gathering proof. She placed another envelope on the table, this one filled with photographs, old documents, and letters written in Thorn's unmistakable handwriting. They detailed a love affair between him and Camille, a woman he was forbidden to marry because of her connection to a rival fashion empire. When she became pregnant, Thorn's family intervened, forcing them apart and erasing every trace of their child. That child was Luna. Finn pressed his hands against his temples, his mind a storm of disbelief. The family legacy he had married into was unraveling before his eyes. For Steffi, it was even worse. The Forrester dynasty, the name she had spent her life defending, was now tied to a web of lies, betrayals, and buried shame. If this is true, she said, her voice shaking, then everything we've built is based on a cover-up. Luna's eyes softened. It's true, Steffi. And I can prove it. Dylan wanted to sell this information to destroy Forrester Creations. But someone else, someone inside the company, was helping him. The name hung unspoken in the air, but they all knew the possibilities. The Forresters had enemies both inside and out, people who had waited years for a chance to tear them apart. And now, with Luna's return, the cracks were showing. When Thorn finally heard the news, the reaction was devastating. He flew back to Los Angeles that same night, unable to believe the words left on his voicemail. You have a daughter, and she's alive. The moment he saw Luna standing in the Forrester mansion, his face drained of color. The resemblance was undeniable, the same eyes, the same quiet intensity. It can't be, he whispered, his voice breaking. I would have known. But as Luna showed him the letters, the DNA results, and the pendant Camille had given her, realization struck. Memories long buried surged back. The night he had watched Camille disappear, the letters that never reached him, the threats from his own family to keep silent. The truth was unbearable. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he had lost. For Thorn, Luna's return was not just a revelation, it was an indictment. It exposed the cold machinery of power that had ruled their family for decades, where love was sacrificed for legacy. For Steffi, it was a mirror reflecting the very corruption she had tried to deny. And for Finn, it was a test of everything he believed in: trust, loyalty, and the boundaries of truth. In the days that followed, chaos rippled through the Forrester family. The media caught wind of Luna's return, branding her the lost Forrester heiress. The family's unity splintered under the weight of suspicion. Rich demanded to know who within their circle had buried Thorn's past. Eric retreated into silence, his health weakening under the strain. And Steffi, torn between loyalty to her family and compassion for Luna, found herself at war with her own conscience. Luna, meanwhile, lived under constant threat. The same people who had hunted her before now sought to erase her permanently. Dylan's disappearance only deepened the mystery. His body was never found, and whispers suggested he might still be alive, waiting to strike again. Finn's instincts as both a doctor and a protector drove him to stand by her, despite Steffi's growing resentment. The emotional distance between husband and wife widened, their once solid love corroding under the pressure of secrets and half-truths. One night, Luna stood alone at the cliffs, staring at the dark horizon. The waves crashed below, relentless and unforgiving. Thorn joined her silently, his presence both comforting and painful. "You remind me of your mother," he said softly. "She had that same fire, that same refusal to bow to anyone. I should have fought for her. I should have fought for you." Luna turned to him, her expression unreadable. "It's not too late," she said. "But the truth will destroy this family if we don't face it together." The following day, Thorn gathered the family in the Forrester living room, a room that had witnessed both triumphs and betrayals. The tension was palpable. Steffi sat stiffly beside Finn, her gaze cold. Ridge stood with his arms crossed, defensive. Eric, pale but resolute, leaned on his cane. Luna entered quietly, her chin lifted. Thorn spoke first. "This is my daughter," he said. "And it's time this family stopped hiding from what it's done." The confession unleashed years of suppressed emotion. Arguments erupted, accusations flew, and tears fell. But beneath the chaos, something profound began to shift. The truth, long buried beneath generations of lies, had finally surfaced. It left scars, yes, but it also brought clarity. In the aftermath, Luna found herself both an outcast and a symbol. The world saw her as the girl who defied death, the heir who had exposed the secret that nearly destroyed the Forresters. But within the family, she became something more, a catalyst for reckoning. For Steffi and Finn, her return forced them to confront what trust truly meant. For Thorn, it was a chance at redemption. And for the Forrester legacy itself, it was the beginning of a painful, necessary rebirth. As the storm clouds finally broke and sunlight poured once more over Los Angeles, Luna stood outside the Forrester mansion, her reflection mirrored in its towering glass walls. She wasn't the same woman who had once fled for her life. She had come back to claim not power, but truth. And in doing so, she had changed everything. In the weeks that followed Luna's revelation, the Forrester mansion, once a symbol of opulence and legacy, became the epicenter of a quiet civil war. Every conversation carried the weight of suspicion, every glance concealed resentment or guilt. The name Forrester, which had once stood for beauty, wealth, and craftsmanship, now echoed with whispers of betrayal. The family tried to keep Luna's existence out of the press, but the damage was already done. The tabloids had found their new obsession. The lost Forrester heiress returns from the dead. Luna's photograph appeared everywhere, her face framed by headlines that alternated between sympathy and scandal. Secret daughter of Thorn Forrester Shakes dynasty. Who ordered Luna's death? Forrester creations in crisis. The world outside feasted on their pain, while inside the mansion, old wounds reopened and new ones were inflicted daily. Steffi tried to maintain control, convincing herself that she could still protect the company's image, but her confidence faltered each time she saw Luna. The resemblance to Thorn was undeniable. The same eyes, the same quiet strength, but there was also something foreign in Luna's expression, a kind of haunted clarity that Steffi could neither understand nor dismiss. Finn, meanwhile, found himself torn between empathy and exhaustion. He had once mourned Luna, grieved her as a victim. Now she stood before him as a survivor, fragile yet powerful, and he couldn't decide whether to admire or fear her. The real fracture, however, ran through Thorn. The guilt consumed him like fire. He avoided the public, withdrew from company meetings, and spent his nights in the garden where his mother's ashes were scattered, asking the wind for forgiveness that would not come. He had missed Luna's entire life. The first word, the first step, the birthdays and heartbreaks, and no revelation could undo that loss. Yet, every time he looked at her, He saw a second chance flickering through the wreckage of his mistakes. One evening, as twilight sank into the horizon, Thorne called Luna into the studio where he used to design. The walls were lined with sketches of long-forgotten collections, each piece a memory of who he used to be. Luna hesitated at the doorway. "You wanted to see me?" she asked softly. Thorne turned toward her, his face worn but resolute. "You remind me of her, your mother," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "I loved Camille with everything I had. But this family, this name, it demanded loyalty before love. I let them convince me to let her go." He paused, swallowing the pain that threatened to break him. "And because of that, I lost you." Luna's throat tightened. "I used to dream about a father who would come for me," she admitted. "Someone who would fight for me, who'd say my name like it mattered. But no one ever did." Thorne stepped closer, tears glistening in his eyes. "I can't undo the past, Luna. But I can fight now. For you." It was the first true promise between them, fragile and late, but real. However, the world outside didn't grant them time to heal. Within days, a new threat surfaced. Anonymous emails began flooding Forrester Creation servers, each containing fragments of documents from the company's hidden archives, files tied to decades-old scandals, forged contracts, secret payoffs, and cover-ups involving Thorne, Ridge, and even Eric. Whoever was behind it wasn't merely leaking secrets. They were dismantling the Forrester empire from within. The first to notice the pattern was Ridge. In a tense boardroom meeting, he slammed a folder onto the table. "This isn't random," he said. "Someone is releasing files that only an insider could access. Someone who knows the system, the history, and the stakes." His gaze drifted toward Luna. Steffi immediately bristled. "You think Luna would do this? After everything she's been through?" Ridge's expression was unreadable. "I think she's the only one who has something to gain from watching us crumble." The accusation sliced through the room like glass. Luna's face went pale. "You think I came back from the dead just to destroy you?" she said quietly, her voice shaking but firm. "I came back to find the truth, not to burn down what's left of your illusions." Thorne stood, anger flashing in his eyes. "Enough, Ridge. She's my daughter. You'll treat her with the respect she deserves." But Ridge wasn't convinced. "Family doesn't make someone innocent," he said coldly. "And neither does blood." That night, Luna sat alone in the guest room, the storm outside rattling the windows. Every word replayed in her mind, every look of doubt, every whispered fear. She had expected resistance, but not this deep-rooted hostility. She opened her laptop and rechecked the files she had been sent weeks ago, the ones that had helped her expose Dylan's conspiracy. Buried among them were encrypted documents she hadn't yet unlocked. Now, curiosity burned through her dread. If the leaks weren't from her, then who was doing it? After hours of decoding, the answer emerged. The sender's identity was masked, but a single line of metadata revealed a familiar name hidden in the code: Dylan. Her blood ran cold. Dylan was alive. The next morning, Luna told Thorne and Finn everything. The color drained from Finn's face as she showed them the digital trail. "He's back," Finn said grimly. "And if he's leaking internal files, then he's got someone helping him from the inside." Steffi refused to believe it.
"No."
"Dylan is dead." The police confirmed it. Did they? Luna shot back. Or did they confirm what they were told to believe? Within days, proof surfaced. A security camera near the old Forrester warehouse captured footage of a man in a dark coat entering the building at midnight. His face was partially obscured, but the movement, the posture, it was Dylan. He was alive, and he wasn't working alone. When the truth reached the press, the fallout was immediate. Investors pulled out. The Forrester name, once a fortress, was now a battlefield. Eric's health declined rapidly under the stress, leaving Ridge and Steffi scrambling to protect the company's reputation. But Luna knew that image control was useless now. The real enemy was still out there, orchestrating chaos, and she was the bait. One night, she received a message on her phone, short and chilling. "Meet me where it all began. or the Forrester's fall. Attached was an address, the abandoned airstrip, where she had faked her death months ago. Against Finn's warnings, she went. The airstrip was silent under the moonlight, the wind cutting through her coat. Shadows danced across the cracked pavement. And then, from the darkness, Dylan stepped forward, alive, changed, his expression both haunting and strangely calm. "You weren't supposed to come back," he said, his voice low. "You ruined everything." "What do you want?" Luna demanded. He smiled faintly. "Justice. Or maybe revenge. The Forresters built an empire on lies. Your existence was one of them. I'm just making sure the truth burns them to the ground." Luna's pulse raced. "You used me," she said. "You made me part of your war." "You were born into it," he replied. "You just didn't know it." The confrontation turned violent when headlights flooded the airstrip. Finn and Thorn had followed her. A struggle broke out. Dylan drew a gun. A single shot rang through the night. For a breathless moment, time stopped. When the dust settled, Dylan was gone, fled into the darkness, leaving only chaos behind. In the days that followed, the family fractured even further. Luna was safe, but nothing felt whole. The truth had come at too high a price. Yet beneath the destruction, there was a strange sense of freedom. The lies that had bound them for decades were finally exposed, and though the world saw scandal, Luna saw something else: rebirth. Standing once more at the cliff's edge outside the cliff house, Luna looked out over the endless sea. Steffi joined her quietly, her tone softer than it had been in months. "You've changed everything," she said. Luna turned to her, her eyes reflecting the pale morning light. "Maybe that's what needed to happen," she said. "Maybe the Forresters had to lose everything to remember who they really are." And as the waves crashed below, the horizon glowed with a new dawn, one that promised not peace, but truth. For the first time in the Forrester family's long, turbulent history, the future would not be defined by secrets buried in the past, but by those brave enough to face them.